Whether you're pitching a product, negotiating a raise, or deciding which movie to watch, we all navigating the art of selling in one way or another. Welcome to Power of Soft Skills in Sales. I'm Evgeniy, your guide to unlocking the human side of selling. Here we explore the connection, communication, and collaboration skills that make interactions more impactful. Get ready for inspiring stories, teamwork tips, insight on trust, and actionable advice to help you sell smarter and connect deeper. Let's jump in. I have an opportunity today to talk to Dan about his journey and about his communication style. Dan been around for a very long time, did quite a lot in a space. Dan, welcome to the show, and please tell us about yourself.
Yeah, thanks so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on. And yeah, I've been several years, more than 30 years in the industry. And going back to the National Security Agency in Washington, I was in England with Lockheed and ManTech in the 90s. And then really 17 years in Michigan government. So a lot of different roles in my background in agency chief information officer, CISO for mid-state of Michigan, CTO, chief technology officer for the state of Michigan. And now I'm in the private sector, do work with Presidio as their field CISO, and just love working with CXOs, chief security officers, chief information officers, chief technology officers all over the country. And I mainly focus on the public sector, but I do some work in the private sector as well.
Let's dive in right to a problem or an opportunity. You basically a high-end consulting person. You come and talk to very senior people and help them or guide them how can do stuff better. In our industry, not just our industry in general, I think people have quite a lot of ego and like, who are you? Why are you telling me what to do? Are you trying to take over my job?
Yeah.
And in reality, no, it's not the way. So for you to be able to help them, to make an impact, you need to find a way that they will trust you and they will like, oh, you're here to help me. You're here to elevate me. Is this true?
Absolutely. No, it's 100% it. It's all about building trust, strengthening relationships, and keeping those relationships fresh in a world where there's incredible amount of turnover. So yes, that's absolutely what my job is.
In some cases, people may know who you are. The trust will kind of, oh, okay. Oh, yeah, this is that. We're going to trust him. And sometimes people don't know who you are. So you have to start cold. And unfortunately, industry looking for a framework. Oh, tell me what to do. Tell me which button to press. Not always the case. We're all different. I cannot find one framework. I maybe give you different tools and tell you which tool to use, but I cannot tell you what to do all the time. It's very dynamic. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Totally agree. And it really, the personal side of this thing, the community, which is the theme of your book and the theme of this, so many conversations, it really is about connecting at a personal level and building trust. And how do they trust you, as you mentioned? And I guess we'll get into some of those examples in a minute.
Yes. Before we go there, what helped you to get where you are? And how did you learn the communication part? Not the technical part, the communication part.
Great question. I mean, I think part of it is really your own personal story and your background and not, I gave you a pretty long bio there in the beginning, but really doing your homework on whoever you're working with and up front, but really on a personal level, I've been through the battles myself. I went out there and I actually came up through the ranks, got my master's degree at Johns Hopkins. I was CISO for the state of Michigan. I was CISO for a startup company called Security Mentor for a few years and kind of lived and did that job for 7 years in Michigan government, worked with these different other states. So I kind of know what their life is like, know what it's like. And then I was a CTO, so I had to eat the dog food that I had created. I had to kind of build this whole plan, built this strategy around the state of Michigan cyber strategy. And then, okay, now how are we going to implement the policies, procedures, the technology, the infrastructure? So I've been on both sides of it. So, I mean, part of it is experience. I mean, I think that's why we see in the US in sports, I love sports analogies, we see a lot of the people that are doing the play-by-play announcing on the games are former players who played on the football field. They were the ones who actually, or the coaches, same thing. A lot of the coaches and the people announcing, people explaining it The coaches are former players and the players are the announcers, et cetera. They've actually experienced it themselves. They've lived it. I think that helps tremendously.
I definitely agree. When you understand what the other side is doing, when you understand that sometimes long nights are long nights and they're very hard, and people not having fun there, and you understand that data centers could be very cold and it's frustrating, then you understand how to talk to people better. Then you understand how to connect them better. And I know in my personal history, I always try to show that I understand the technology, but I can also talk the business level, the high level, to explain that I can go up and down depend on
Sure.
needed. So this is important. So let's dive in. What do you do right now? How do you learn to connect to people? How do you understand? Do you do your research? Do you try to understand who they are on a call? Do you ask probing questions?
Dude, I think all of the above. I mean, I think I honestly, for being very transparent with the audience, I'm not a great listener. I try to grow. My wife's like, you need to be a better listener. You need to grow in listening. I think listening skills are really important. But really, yeah, do your homework. Whenever we're meeting with someone, connecting on LinkedIn, probably like you, I have over what? I think I have over 30,000 LinkedIn connections. So I have almost 40,000 now. So if you don't know someone personally before a meeting, I often will try and connect with them on LinkedIn or some other way, get a little bit of background if you can. And then if I don't know someone, I usually know somebody. It's a small industry. Even though it's a big industry, it tends to be small in the C-suite, in cybersecurity around the country and around the world, really. So somebody who knows somebody. So a lot of times I'll do an introduction that way. Try and get to know people if you can. I mean, everyone wants to just get together and talk, small talk or whatever. That's not always possible. But doing your homework on the person, knowing the background. The other thing that we didn't mention before is I love, and I can tell one or two with you right now, but I love telling stories too. And a lot of times you talk about the technical jargon, having an example after you understand what they are doing, who that person is, man or woman, what their challenges are. If they publish, and we say this at NASCIO all the time, the National Association of State CIOs, most states, for example, most big cities have published a roadmap or strategy. You better read that. You better do the homework of what's out there already. It's available, or get a hold of that so you can know what do they post, what are they talking about, what are their challenges, but also what can you bring that really is going to offer them a solution that is relevant. And so having stories is a big part of that. And people often want to know what others are doing, what their peers are doing, what's successful, what's hot, what's not, what's working other places. So case studies are vital. It could be stories from your own career, from things that you've seen recently or previously, or it could be something that, I just heard that same thing's going on in Wisconsin. It's going down here in Indiana, going on in California. I just talked to Vitale, whatever it might be, talking to these people about a case study that's relevant for them.
Do you feel people on this level want to express themselves to people on a senior level?
It depends on the person. I mean, some really do. Some you can learn a lot by their body language. You can learn a lot by, is this just a meeting? The truth is, to be blunt about it, when life in general, people know this. Take a big step back from cybersecurity or C-suite. It's just, in some ways, people say it's like dating. It's like there's certain things that are going to happen. If you're meeting somebody for the first time, they have no idea who you are. You really have never met them before, and you're meeting via Zoom or something, you're not going to connect with them in that first meeting. So your expectations are going to have to be pretty low. I chuckle sometimes when I watch people trying to do things in first or second meetings that clearly they don't have the relationship, or they don't have the knowledge. They don't really have the trust to even have the conversation they're trying to have, and it's going to go badly. You can kind of see that from a mile away. But so certain people, I have relationships, professional relationships with CISOs and CIOs around the country that I've known for more than a decade. And they're calling me, asking me advice. And they're reaching out to me on a regular basis. And we have regular kind of a cadence. That's a very different conversation than somebody who I'm going to for the first time. So it really comes down to who it is and how well you know them and how well they trust you. And I think you have people, for me, I have people in kind of three different buckets. Ones that are I've known for a long time, and maybe multiple different roles. Sometimes they were CISOs for different companies, CISOs for different states. They moved around, but I've known them for years. Others are a while. Maybe you meet them for the first time, that kind of thing, maybe 2, 3, 4 years ago, but others you're brand new. So it really depends on the situation.
So I'm going to go talk about the one we're meeting first time, because I think
Okay.
when you know people a long time, it makes sense. You build a rapport, you build a connection. And you mentioned something very interesting, that don't expect to sell whatever it is or close the deal in the first meeting. Having said this, it's a first meeting. You do want to have some kind of a baby step for the connection, some kind of understanding, some kind of a line. You mentioned
Yeah.
sports. Can I connect you on sports? Can I understand you like football? At least build a base and a
Yeah.
foundation. And then next meeting, higher, until
Yeah.
you get to the point when they feel confident to tell you what's happening. And they feel confident to actually let you guide them. Because in the end
Yeah.
of the day, your job is to guide them and help them to build a better foundation, perimeter, whatever that is. No perimeter, cybersecurity program.
Absolutely. No, totally. And so I think for that first meeting, I mean, honestly, many times the goal for a CIO or CISO that I've never met before, or that I've done a little bit of homework on, they know a little about me, I know a little bit about them, but we're really meeting for the first time, is to have another meeting. I mean, that's almost the goal. I mean, being very simple, but it's to have an initial conversation, help them understand your background, sometimes some examples, get a general understanding of where they're looking for help. And so at Presidio, for example, we have a wide range of services, both products and services that we provide, and advice, et cetera, and everything from planning and strategy all the way through to execution and day-to-day operations and incident response. So the full gamut. So a kind of get a better understanding of where the need is, where is the challenge is, and then give them a general understanding initially of what you can provide. I think it's really today more than ever before, people want to know about relevant case studies and peers who are doing things. One thing you should know, in the world that I work in government, everybody's talking to everybody else. They've got signal accounts. They all know each other. And if you're a new CISO in a state or a city or a big county or university, you're in the Big Ten. I'm just saying that you become the new CISO for Michigan State or whatever it might be. Immediately, the peer CISOs from all the Big Ten universities are going to surround that person immediately, and they're going to be in a network of their peers within that context. Now, if you're working in electricity or utilities, same thing. Some of them are more competitive than others, right? So, but I mean, certainly in the public sector, in state and local government education, K through 12 universities, it's a club, really. It's a small club. And so why am I telling you that? I'm saying that because they're going to talk to each other. And so what's really hard, if you're getting your first sale with the first city or the first county or the first state, we have a special podcast just on that, because that's really hard. But hopefully your company or your organization or whoever you're working with has a few wins under your belt. So you have 1 or 2 or 3 really great examples that you can show, case studies of successes. And it's even better if those are some of the same ones that obviously the people are a match for what the person is looking for. Sometimes they're not an exact match. You want to shuttle them to go talk to this person, but they're going to reach out and talk to the ones that they know. They're going to say, hey, do you know anybody is a Big Ten university? I know you've talked to that university down in Florida, but these are the people that I know, because they would like to talk to people, guess what, who they trust again. So I'm just trying to give some inside baseball. If they don't, I'm not saying they won't talk to, if you're in Michigan, they won't talk to Florida. They will. But I'm just saying examples of people in their network, people that they trust, people that they know, people that have a similar environment or infrastructure or security problem that they have. Those are the people they like to talk to and say, hey, what do you know? What do you know about this guy, Dan Lohrmann? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to actually try to reverse it a bit, because you're talking about success and how hard it is to do a sale first time. I want to talk quickly about if you see the deal is not going anywhere, if you see it's not succeeding, I believe it's important to still stay human, still be very polite, because it may bite you with, oh, nothing's going to happen here. I don't care about this anymore. Still do the education, still educate the customer. Even if they're not buying, do your best, because as you mentioned, the network is still very small. Somebody else will ask them, or they will tell somebody else. So always be polite, always be educational, and don't try to be an asshole. Excuse my French in this case.
Totally agree. And I can tell you a story to back that up. I mean, when I was CISO for the state of Michigan, I had to go through a whole series of learning experiences as a CISO for more than 7 years. Initial cliche was the answer is Dan was always the no guy. The answer is no. What was the question? He's a CISO. It's always a no. And I learned how to get to yes. I learned how to be business focused. I learned how to meet people. But one of the ways I learned that is by doing lunch with the business leaders as CISO for the state of Michigan, as talking to them about their projects and their things. But I learned very quickly, to your point, where I was going with this is the people always outlasted the projects. I mean, and so I would be working with the same key leaders as a CISO over literally more than a decade. And the projects would come and go, the budgets would come and go, be a new fiscal year, new this, new that. This is going, that's not going, this is happening. The same thing is true. That's within Michigan state government, 55,000 state employees in Michigan government. And we were managing a large enterprise. But the same is true in the industry. People remember you for, like you said, even when you're losing, how are you acting? Are you doing it with class? Are you someone who can provide a good reference or a good leadership? Are you somebody who can, even if it's not going to be a sale? I mean, a lot of my conversations and trust building and relationship building are not necessarily about Presidio getting a sale this month, this year. I mean, hopefully it will lead to things down the road and I can open doors for people over the course of years. But oftentimes they don't. And so hopefully people know me around the country and around the world and know you and others as someone who's helpful and is available, and call me whenever you need me. I'm happy. I'm here. I want to be a listening ear. I want to provide, and I can connect you with others who can get you what you need.
There, you mentioned a couple of interesting things that I want to dive in. One, that you're meeting over Zooms. Two, that you used to do lunches. And I basically want to go dive into Zooms, Teams, Google Meets. We lost this ability, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how we look on this, to always do physical meetings. Even right now, you and me recording over digital media. I think 60 years ago, we probably find a way to fly to the same spot and record in the studio. Always good as well. What changed? What changed the communication in your style? In what do you do when you connect to people? Microphone, cameras, your background. What do you do differently?
No, it's really good. I mean, I clearly, first of all, I will say I do try. I like last year I did 26 live events. And so I do try and do lunches and dinners. I want to start off by kind of putting a disclaimer here. I still think it's best if you can do it, a dinner, a lunch, a breakfast, a meeting in person. I find that, and usually it's not one or the other. Usually it ends up being a mixture of both. But at key conferences or key events, really leveraging those and managing those. But to your point, if I'm not traveling, and 90% of the time I wasn't traveling last year, I'm doing meetings from home. So like the conversation I'm having with you right now. So to your point, knowing that you need to be crisp, I think knowing that you need to, one thing I learned with blogging, I've been blogging in this industry for more than 15 years, is don't just save your best stuff for last. Sometimes you've got to, if you got 30 minutes, maybe there needs to be some small talk about the football game last night or something like that. But the reality is that I try and lead with some of my best. What's the goal of this next? We got 25 minutes. We got 20 minutes. I'd like to do 3 things. Boom. What are those 3 things? And lead with your best. Don't save the best for last, because honestly, especially if you're doing something that's not necessarily a large group, it's not just one-on-one. It may be a team of people. Some people will check out very quickly in their minds. It's like online on connectivity. Is this something that's going to lead to something meaningful or not? And then they can emotionally check out within 5 or 10 minutes if they don't think that there's something relevant for them in that conversation, especially when it's not just a one-on-one thing. So, but yeah, I think some of the clear guidance around being clear, concise, having a professional background, I'm not wearing a coat and tie today, but addressing for the audience that you're talking about. I do a lot of webinars as well, and then things spinning off webinars. So using them and bringing in trusted voices that they may be listening to can also be helpful.
Thank you. I want to bring it to a different angle. We have a lot of talk about missing jobs, missing opportunities, as we need more people in cyber. And we cannot just go and just find them out of the cloud. It's mean all the young generation learning to be there, or we take existing roles from marketing, truck drivers, electricians, and we teach them cyber as well. From all your experience, what would you recommend for them? And I'm not asking to recommend become a pen tester, become a consulting, but in general, what do you think is missing? What does their mind need to think about it on the communication part that's going to help them to become better in cyber and actually succeed as a professional?
Yeah, and I think you cover many of this, and I'm reading some of your materials. It's you're outstanding at this. Is just being a curious listener, asking good questions. People who have those interpersonal skills. It's so powerful. It's so important. And so being curious, someone who is learning, constant lifelong learner. I mean, I've learned that you've got to be a sponge in this industry because things change so fast. And that's often, by the way, something you can bring. If you can have one or two gold nuggets, I said bring your best up front, but something that's going to be engaging. This takes talent. It takes time. It takes an ability. You're very good at that. I can tell already in this conversation, but you do this a lot. You do it with a lot of people. The person and it's that right mixture of passion, knowledge, and need. So I love this. You've probably seen that chart. There's 3 circles. You want the passion. You want to be somebody who's a go-getter, who's going to work hard, 720, a hard worker. The passion, the knowledge, the skill sets. In some cases, that's certifications. In some cases, that's a degree. I did go up kind of the traditional model. I got a bachelor's and a master's in computer science, but a lot of the cyber stuff I learned in 3-letter agencies. I didn't really learn but being a lifelong learner, so that knowledge. And then the need meaning whatever role you're looking for within cybersecurity, the skill sets that are in the highest need. I think that model still is relevant for us in 2025. And if you can get the intersection of those 3, of where your passion, where the need is, and where your skills match, you're going to have somebody who's going to be successful. And that's going to change over time too, right? So, I mean, I also tell people, I mentor a lot of people in this industry. I mentor a lot of CISOs. I mentor a lot of younger workers who are just coming in as well. And I also say to them, we've all heard, again, back to another sports analogy, this time hockey, go to where the puck is going to be. And so knowing not just where it's hot right now, like everyone right now is trying to get, for example, into Gen AI and everything. And that's great. It's amazing how many people you find. I have 20 years experience in AI. Like, really? I mean, it's funny when you talk to them. Like, what were you doing 20 years ago in AI? But knowing also kind of what's going to be hot. So obviously we got quantum that's coming up, quantum computing, knowing what's coming next. And then matching that up and getting skill sets in those areas can be a huge tip. My brother gave me that advice when I first started my career, and we knew networks were going to be hot. We knew security was going to be hot. And so I really honed up on my skills in networking and security. And that's really, by the grace of God, that's worked out well for me over my career. But knowing what's next in the different areas that you're most interested in, and then going after that will be very productive.
Dan, thank you very much. It was a pleasure. I think we can talk for a very long time, but we know people have a very short attention span, so 25 minutes, probably a good time. Thank you again for joining. Everybody that's listening to us, thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Power of Soft Skills in Sales. Remember, the best sales teams aren't just great talkers and deeply technical. They know how to listen, ask questions, guide, and connect on a human level. Enjoy the episode? Please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who benefit. For more tips and insight, visit softskillstech.ca or .com. Until next time, keep sharpening your soft skills and unlocking your full potential. Check out the next episode and subscribe to our newsletter. See you soon!